When people think about visiting New York City, they usually picture packed observation decks, Broadway shows, and checking famous landmarks off a bucket list. But what if that's not really your thing? As an introvert, I don't travel to avoid people. I travel to experience places in a way that lets me enjoy them without feeling completely drained.
Even coming from Los Angeles, I've always found New York City to be a little intimidating. If you're an extrovert, hey, this city is totally for you. And if you're an introvert, you gotta work a little harder to find pockets of peace amongst all the chaos. In this vlog, I'm gonna go over how you can make New York City work for an introvert. And no, I'm not going to do the stereotypical thing, which is to talk about the New York Public Library. No, it's just a quiet space, and it would be really weird to do some filming in there and disturb all the people who like to read. So let's get out of here. Right now, I'm on 8th Avenue near Times Square, near Port Authority, where there's a lot of things happening right now.
This isn't your typical guide to New York City. No Empire State Building, no Statue of Liberty, just 7 ways I like to experience one of the busiest cities in the world.
New York City is famous for its sights, food, people, and of course, the subway. Believe it or not, public transport is actually really good for introverts. Sure, it may be crowded. Your train may be full of people where you have to stand. Believe it or not, it's still the perfect place for an introvert to try to carve some space for themselves. Ironically, I find grabbing a cab or an Uber to be even more intimidating. I'm not really good at making small talk, so I always find it awkward to have to make some sort of polite conversation with the taxi driver or Uber. It's not that I'm not a nice person, but I just don't really know what to say, or I don't know if they're tired. Do they really want to entertain another stranger or passenger?
Ironically, the most crowded place in New York can also be the most peaceful. I can just put on my headphones and escape with an audiobook, or in this case, I was listening to Radiohead. That was 20 minutes or however long it takes to get to my destination where I can observe life, feel anonymous, almost disappear completely. Radiohead fans will get that joke. One of my favorite ways to take a break from the city is probably a little unconventional. While most people are lining up for famous attractions, I like wandering through local grocery stores. It might sound boring, but I think they tell you just as much about a city as any landmark. And best of all, there's no pressure to be anywhere or do anything. You can just browse.
One way to escape the hustle and bustle and the crowds is to go into a grocery store. Do a little grocery shopping, maybe grab something for lunch, maybe grab some snacks. And I happen to pick a grocery store that seems to be the perfect place for an introvert. It's Meadow Lane. Yes, that one that is now internet famous. And why is this good for an introvert? Well, it's not crowded, and it's probably because this supermarket is pretty expensive. So the high prices keep people out, but still, this supermarket is pretty unique. It's pretty interesting and entertaining to walk through, even for, 20 minutes. It's just a way to reset. There's something soothing about looking at produce and just walking around, checking out the products. They got some music playing, clear your mind. And you can also pick up a matcha latte here. So it's double duty, ducking away from the crowds while getting your afternoon matcha.
Now, if $24 containers of strawberries aren't exactly your thing, New York has plenty of other ways to explore its market scene. I love wandering through the fruit stands in Chinatown. You can browse at your own pace, see what's in season, and leave with a snack for just a few dollars. It's a completely different vibe from Meadow Lane, but just as much as part of New York City.
Meanwhile, here in Chinatown, you can get 2 boxes of strawberries for $4.
Yeah, I think a pound will be perfect.
Yes.
Can we have 1 pound of the yellow cherries?
Sure.
I ended up grabbing some Rainier cherries for $4.50 and not $18 at Meadow Lane. And somehow, that makes introversion taste even sweeter.
One misconception of introverts is that they don't like people, but that's not true. They do enjoy being around people, but they prefer smaller groups and being around people that they know really well, such as friends and family. And a board game store is a perfect example of that. So I'm here at the Compleat Strategist in Midtown Manhattan. board game store is where people can gather around a shared interest. Here, obviously, board games. You got a group of people united by their love and interest for board gaming. You don't need to make small talk with strangers. I mean, you're there with your friends. And unlike going to like a bar or a club where it's loud and noisy, the only fights that you might get into would be fighting over a rule. Because there's always going to be that one person who's going to whip out the rule book and go over some technicality. But that's the whole thing about board games. Better to get into an argument amongst friends than with strangers. Now, I'm not a board game enthusiast. My husband is, and he's an introvert, so that's why we're here. Let's go in and check it out. And he's already in there while I was filming this intro.
I've always found hobby stores comforting. Nobody's trying to impress anyone here. People are just excited to share something they enjoy, whether that's board games, puzzles, or tabletop games. It's a reminder that meaningful connections often start with a shared interest rather than small talk.
What I really came to New York for.
If you ask an introvert where they like to recharge, there's a good chance they'll say a coffee shop. But I've learned that not all cafes are created equal. My first stop was the Capital One Café at Columbus Circle. It was buzzing with people working, chatting, and meeting up with friends. I was lucky to snag one seat at the community table so I could enjoy my avocado toast. There's nothing wrong with a lively cafe like this. It just wasn't quite the atmosphere I was looking for. Sometimes, even as an introvert, it's nice to be surrounded by people. You just don't necessarily want to be in the middle of all the activity. Fortunately, New York has no shortage of coffee shops, and it didn't take long before I found one with a completely different vibe. Here is Ole Steen in Midtown, which is a Danish bakery. We're not even inside the bakery, and I'm already overwhelmed with the amount of choices. But nothing screams comfort like a Danish pastry, right? I'm trying to recall all those lessons I learned about Danish pastries when I was in Denmark 2 summers ago, but I completely forgot. Seriously, this is feeling very hygge with the light at the table over there. Got toasties here, but what really caught my eye was the smørrebrød, or the open-faced sandwiches. So this is reassuring to know that I don't have to go back to Denmark to get a smørrebrød. I can just come to New York City. Just put in my drink order and I love it. I just love how the communication is clear here. That's my drink, 617, just waiting for them to prepare it. Since you see your number on the board, there was no unnecessary shouting of your order to keep the cafe calm. This really does feel hygge. It feels very cozy, especially with the pillows. Reminds me of the time that we went to Denmark and we would visit all these cafes and there'd be pillows. It just gives it a cozy feeling. You're not going to get this at a Starbucks. Certainly not. It's our way of carving some coziness in the city. Unlike the Capital One Café on Columbus Circle, Ole Steen is better for the introvert. Instead of harsh fluorescent lighting, we have warm lights. I mean, hygge is more about candles, but obviously you can't have candles in the city. So I'll take warm lighting instead of candles. And instead of harsh concrete walls, we have wood paneling. Well, I'm not really sure if that's real wood, but you know, it kind of gives off the impression that it is wood, which adds to the coziness vibe. At best of all, we found a corner for ourselves here. It's not like at the Capital One Café where we're sitting at a shared table, sitting with other strangers, getting distracted because people are typing away on their laptops. So this is our own little moment of privacy. So I feel that coffee time is really a time that introverts can define for themselves, and it's important to pick the right cafe for it. So I think Ole Steen is perfect for introverts. I love how you can just take time out of your day or just time away from the city just to sit down and enjoy your pastries and drinks. It's not like Starbucks where everybody's in a hurry, they just grab their coffee to go.
while inhaling their muffin before heading on to the train. Here we can practice a little bit of mindful eating, meaning that we get to enjoy this passion fruit cheesecake and all the decadence that goes with it. And then over here with the raspberry Danish, I'm really going to appreciate all the layers of laminated dough. And I'm looking around and nobody seems to be in a rush to wolf down their food and go. Like, people are just genuinely enjoying their time here, whether it's talking to their friend or their partner, or they're eating by themselves and recharging.
One thing I've learned from traveling is that sometimes the best memories aren't made while rushing from one attraction to the next. Sometimes they're made by simply finding a place to sit, enjoying a good pastry, and letting the city move around you for a little while. I've stopped measuring a trip by how many attractions I can squeeze into a day. I'd rather leave with a few moments that I genuinely enjoyed than a checklist that's completely finished. Running has become one of my favorite ways to explore a place. Instead of rushing between attractions, I get to experience the city at my own pace. And in a city as busy as New York, Central Park feels like a completely different world.
Do you hear that all around? No, you probably can't really hear it very much. It's birds chirping, and then I'm breathing a little hard. I just finished an interval, so that's why I'm breathing a little hard there. This is the ultimate way to escape the city. Just in the middle of Manhattan, you have this huge park to escape the people. It's amazing that how densely packed the city is, that here in Central Park, you feel like you can breathe. There's hardly anybody around, or I feel like we can stretch ourselves out. This is the prime location for introverts. Just come to Central Park. One of my favorite things to do on our annual trip to New York City is the Central Park Run. It's not an official run. It's just something I created for myself, my own Central Park race. See, I even have a jersey. It's just a running thing from the New York City Marathon in 2018. But the point is, it gives me this idea that I'm doing my own thing. This is my own way of doing things, my own escape, my own way of recharging before going back out into the city again.
There's something relaxing about sharing the park with hundreds of other runners. You're surrounded by people, but everybody's doing their own thing. There's no pressure to strike up a conversation or stick to an itinerary. For an hour or so, the city fades into the background, and all you're thinking about is the next turn in the path. It felt almost too perfect that one of our dinner reservations was at a restaurant called Crown Shy. Whether the name was intentional or not, it seemed like an appropriate stop for an introvert's guide to New York.
Look, I know that fine dining is a splurge, and I'm not expecting you to hit up every Michelin star restaurant to go out in the city. But if I'm going to be dropping some money on going out, I don't want to go to a noisy bar or someplace that's like really wild and crowded. I'm investing in a space that's giving me peace. I'm looking for places that have spaces between tables, ambient lighting, just a calm, chill place to have dinner. I really enjoy good food, and I want to be able to enjoy it in an environment where it's not loud or crowded. I don't want to be screaming to my husband across the table. Now, some people may say, hey, you're introverted, then maybe you should just stay in the hotel room and order room service. But I didn't come all the way out to New York City to eat inside of a hotel room. Like, I could have just stayed home and ordered Uber Eats or something. Introversion doesn't mean staying holed up inside your hotel room. It means finding a restaurant where it doesn't drain your batteries. Introverts can still have lots of fun.
Despite having a Michelin star, Crown Shy felt surprisingly approachable. It was lively, but the atmosphere encouraged you to settle in and enjoy the meal rather than rush through it. One thing I appreciate about a meal like this is that it encourages you to slow down. Each course arrives one at a time, giving you a chance to pause, enjoy the conversation, and be present instead of rushing through the experience. Of course, you don't have to splurge on a Michelin-star dinner to enjoy a quieter meal in New York. Sometimes it's as simple as finding a neighborhood spot. And in New York, those places exist at just about every budget.
I
I love it. The Irish Literary Revival and Making of a Nation. I guess that's what their exhibit is right now. Time for it. And best of all, free of charge. Now this here, you're not going to find in an average tourist guide. In fact, we really had to look for this one. Now, if hygge at a cafe like Ole Steen is supposed to represent quietness, the Grolier Club is about tuning out the modern world. Not talking about some overhyped museum where people are taking selfies in front of famous statues and paintings. This place here is completely analog. It's basically a book lovers club for bibliophiles. No Kindles here. This is a place where introverts can get a reset. It's a museum because it's great for introverts. I can't imagine large groups being inside of the Grolier's Club. Not every memorable stop in New York has a line wrapped around the block. Sometimes it's the quieter places that leave the biggest impression. I love stumbling upon museums and exhibits like this because they invite you to slow down, read a little longer, and let your curiosity lead the way. If you've watched this far, you've probably noticed a pattern. None of these places are about avoiding New York. They're about experiencing it differently. Sometimes that means stepping into a space where the loudest thing is your curiosity.
Originally, I thought that said 1906, but it's actually 1960, but that's okay. That's still an old copy of Pride and Prejudice. A little blast to the past from my childhood. I remember this book. How's this for an introvert space? So yeah, you can actually sit here and leaf through some of their books, but you do have to ask for permission, though, to take out a book. It's the only place in New York City where you can read a book in silence. By the end of this trip, I realized I wasn't trying to escape New York at all. I was simply finding the version of the city that felt like home to me. Being an introvert doesn't mean that you don't belong in New York City. After all, I've been to New York City over 20 times and I go every year. So the crowds, the noise, they don't intimidate me. I just find my own way of experiencing the city. For me, that means running through Central Park, finding pockets of calm at a coffee shop, maybe wandering through a grocery store, enjoying some fine dining. Those activities allow me to recharge my batteries. So that way I have energy in order to spend time with people that I care about and take in all the excitement that New York City has to offer. Maybe that's the beauty of New York City. There's no wrong way to experience it. You can lean into its frenetic vibes, or you could find the quiet moments in between. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about introverts is that we don't like being around people. Because at the end of the day, this trip was never just about exploring the city. It was about spending time with family. Those are the moments I remember most. Sharing a meal, catching up, laughing together, and simply being present. Maybe that's what being an introvert really means. Not avoiding people, but being intentional about where you spend your time and energy so that when you're with the people who matter most, you can give them your full attention. New York may be known as a city that never sleeps, but I found that even here, there are plenty of quiet moments waiting to be discovered. And sometimes those quiet moments are what makes the loudest memories.